So today I'm gonna try this, for me, very ambitious 80s look to reproduce what I have on this eye. So I do want to let you know right away that I used multiple palettes because I didn't have all the colors that I wanted in any single palette. But essentially the colors are red, yellow, purple, and orange, which is one of my favorite blends. So I'm gonna start off with my Sugar Crystal palette, and what I'm gonna dip into is the bananas and the buttercream. So it's the full intensity yellow with the pale yellow shimmer. And we are gonna go ahead and pop those yellows onto our upper lid below the brow bone, understanding that I have hooded eyes and I have limitations as to how close I can get to my super archy arch. It's been so beautiful here lately. I can't get over how much I'm loving the weather. Now I'm dipping into my buttercream and I'm laying it on top of the banana. And that's pretty much all I'm using my sugar crystals for. And we're gonna go to our Coral Crush, also a violet Voss palette, and I am really enjoying those. We're gonna mix a little bit of BFF and a little bit of Escape, and we're going to feather it in this way. And it's important that you don't, even if your eye shape is different than mine, that you don't bring the red too high up, otherwise you're not going to see your yellow blend. And then I'm dipping into Peony, which is kind of like a hot pink. And you can see the intensity is very different, and that's because I'm building up the blend on this eye. My NYX Ultimate Brights and this palette, I'm going to be using the red sparkle color. And hopefully you can immediately see the intensity is much higher. Okay, this may seem counterintuitive, but this is what's happening. We're going into this noir, which is a straight black, and I'm just doing a little bit of a cat's eye with noir, but it's not going to stay that black color. And then I'm going to go into this flame, which is kind of a red shimmer. I'm laying it on top of the black. Now I'm pulling my eyeshadow out much more 80s style in the kind of wedge look for this, because this look to me is totally inspired by the 80s. Next I'm dipping into Passion. Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam, and I'm only using this for the fairy dust, which I'm doing on the inner corner. And I probably could have used Shore from Coral Crush. I didn't. I don't know why. It's just the way it went down. I am overlaying the deepest shade of purple from the Brights, again on top of that noir. From the Ultra Bright with my finger because I am not quite getting the pop. And I'm sure you guys know that you get much more pigment and much more intensity using your fingers than you do with brushes. Brushes are lovely for feathering, shading, blending. But if you want really intense pigment, a lot of times your fingers, as you can see, they're just covered, are actually a better bet, better way to go. And I'm taking Passion just to bring back a little of that sparkle, and I'm using a brush specifically because I'm trying not to remove the intensity. Taking a little bit of Tiger Lily. I'm using a brush because I want it to be subtle. Now at this point, This was purposeful in terms of dragging out my color on this side. This was less thoughtful. I'm going to put on my liquid liner, and for me, because I have hooded eyes, if I want to do a pretty bold kind of tail, I need to actually pull it off the bottom line, not off the top line, because if I pulled it off the top line, you would not see it whatsoever. So by pulling it off the bottom and then smoking that line and adding some purple, you're getting some of the intensity of having a more pronounced wingtip on your liner without necessarily shutting down your eyes completely or doing a lot of work that you're not going to see because the hood is going to cover it. I forgot something. We're going to go in with a pina colada. And the pina colada is just basically an off-white color. My belief or my experience is if you leave just a little bit of that light color, you're going to get a nicer pop from your eyebrows. And your eyebrows do frame your eyes, so it's important that you get that intense pop from my perspective. This is just a stiff kind of brush to feather out some of the harshness. So one of the ways that I like to clean out fallout or clean up fallout, there's tapes that you can use. I don't really like using the adhesive because I feel like when you take that adhesive tape off, it just pulls at your skin a little bit more than I would necessarily prefer. So pretty much my favorite way to clean out fallout is to use a cotton ball and a little bit of lotion, because the lotion is going to have, and you just spread it on the cotton ball, the lotion is going to have mineral oil in it, which is going to break down the pigment immediately. You can kind of see. It's not terribly harsh to your skin, which is a plus. Of course, it also helps if you don't take your smudged fingers and touch your face like I just did. But never fear, mineral oil is here. And I'm just going to use a little bit of pressed powder to kind of repair that area where I touched the mineral oil to my foundation. All right, so I'm gonna do my eyeliner off camera. I'm gonna tell you about my lip color in just a second and just do a final sweep. So, all right, so that's our look. And to review, the NYX, I used the sparkle red and I used the purple. Purple was overlaid on top of the noir, or the black, from Anastasia of Beverly Hills. I just didn't have a black in one palette along with these colors, which is why I used a whole bunch of palettes. Now in the corner crease, we were starting out with BFF and Escape, which is a chocolate and a mulberry. I mixed those together, put the noir on top of it, and then overlaid the dark purple from the NYX Brights. On the upper lid, we have Butter and Buttercream, which are from Sugar Crystals. Again, I didn't have quite the yellows that I wanted in the Coral Crush, even though there is a yellow in that. And I probably could have just as easily used these two yellows, which are extremely similar in tone to the Sugar Crystals. I don't know, I grabbed the Sugar Crystals, but I probably could have done it with this. And so that's the bright yellow with the lighter yellow. And then there is a cream that is blended on top of that. Then I did a whole lot with the Coral Crush palette in terms of overlays. And one of the things that you may or may not know about eyeshadow is a lot like paint, in that there are certain tones that only achieve their richness by doing what we would call in painting a glazing technique, meaning you're putting a color under it, putting a color on top of that, and in between those, different amounts of light is either absorbed or reflected back by the color, and that glazing technique gives you a richness of tone that you can't get any other way. So on the inner corner, we used a whole lot of things. You know, we used a little bit of the tiger lily, we overlaid a little bit of flame, we had a tiny bit of passion overlaid on top of that, and then I dipped back into the peony for an overlay on top of the edge of where the purple was, and finally the pina colada between the space of the brow and the top of the shadow. So I know that's complicated, but essentially you can do this. You could probably have done a very comparable look, maybe not quite as rich, with the NYX Ultimate Bright palette. You know, you could have definitely used these two yellows for the dark yellow and the light yellow. You could have certainly used this bright red mixed with probably this for the inner corner. You could have smudged up with this orange. So, I mean, you could do a very comparable look with a $10 NYX palette rather than $400 worth of other palettes. You know, well, that's quite not that much. There's Sugar Crystals, there was Coral Crush, and Soft Glam. So, like I said, you could have done something very similar. I mean, the two colors that are pretty much absent from this palette that I was using in the other ones, this doesn't have any vanilla, it doesn't have any black. So there would be that. Now, I went for more of a berry look, and this one is Berry Recognized Wet and Wild Mega Last Liquid Catsuit Matte Lipstick. I prefer matte lipsticks. They last to me much longer than creams. I find that for me personally, when I tattoo, I like to pull my hair back, and I don't like little strands of hair. So honestly, the majority of my work life is me in a ponytail. Today we have a slight bun, but essentially my hair is pulled back all the time. And if I get one of those long tendrils kind of going towards my face, it inevitably would end up in a cream lipstick like here, and then I'd have some sort of red streak. But also I don't know why. It seems like, I'm sure I'm still getting the same tendrils in my hair, but it doesn't get into my lipstick. And once it gets into my lipstick, then I've got to take my gloves off, and I've got to wash my hands, and then I've got to roll to the bathroom, and then I've got to fix my makeup, and then I've got to dry my hands, and I've got to put my hands back in gloves. You know, it's just a whole, you know, rigmarole. Also, you should know, spirit fingers, because I did do a lot of transfer of pigment using my fingers rather than brushes this time. So close up. There you have it. So thanks for joining me. It's Nicole from Nicole Beauty Co. And I would love it if you gave me a heart. Hearts. Comments, like, share, subscribe, and I will see you next time. I am kind of liking this 80s look. It's been a while since I've done like wedge eyeshadow, and I love these colors. So I hope you have a beautiful November day. I will see you in the future.